Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Nine Arches Reads with me, Deborah Alma, reading from my debut collection, Dirty Laundry, which was published in May, actually 2 years ago, so it's a sort of anniversary. I hope that you're not going too crazy in lockdown. I'm lucky enough to be here in Shropshire with lovely walks and lots of poetry books in this quite sad and dark poetry pharmacy, which you can see behind me. I'd like to say thanks to Jane Kemain for inviting me to read on this, and I'd also like to say please don't get too distracted by the roots, which I'd like to show you. Just imagine that there's a strong light shining down on my head or something. I thought I'd read a kind of representative collection rather than representative selection from the collection rather than pick on one theme. So they're a bit all over the place. I'll just make a start. The first one I'm going to read is Morning Song, which I think is kind of a summary, actually, of what the whole collection is about. Morning Song. An open-windowed, church-belled morning, chimes of loss and mine. Water pipes sing, and I bring back to bed a blue enamel pot of hot coffee, as silk as the slide of skin on sheets, and rough hot bread warmed in an oven kept in overnight, and bite into a grape. And lazy-eyed, the women I have been no longer fight their corners. Cocks crow, black throats thrown back with old songs, flown back to all these edges of me. They stay and stare, these women, across the hazy, sun-strewn wooden floor of my dreams and my aging. The mirror crazed and hung with beads, the pink and the red and the purple of the stocks I have grown, and the white of the daisies. There's a kind of theme, I think, in the collection of they're very autobiographical. And on the whole, some of them are works of fiction. You have to figure that out. But they are of mixed class, I would say. Mixed class, mixed race woman living on the borders between Wales and Shropshire. So there's lots of things to do with having a foot in two camps and maybe not properly in either. This poem is called Pink Pyjama Suit. I must have been just 5 in my pink, shiny shalwar kameez. Auntie Karachi pinched my cheeks, jaunty piara like a doll, like a little blonde doll. Walk this way, try some dancing. Now you have your little blonde doll to play with. Mummy G, I don't want to wear it to school. North London laughs too easily, makes fools of us and this mix-up family, this half-caste council estate bastard. Miss Minchin, one arm shorter than the other, knew how North London could laugh and said, "Knock on all 6 doors and tell them Miss Minchin says I must show the children my clothes from Pakistan. Mummy G, the glass on the doors is too high, and all those eyes, as I turn round and round up on teachers' tables to twist in my pretty pink pyjama suit like a little blonde doll." I'm very blonde now. Apologies, because I'm sitting at the till in the shop and I've got the high street in front of me, that somebody might wave at me as they walk past, and I apologise for the sound of the clock when it goes as well. The next one I'm going to read is Cockle Wives at Penclouth, which is where my grandmother's family come from. The women of the Gower ride out on their donkeys, bundled up, round and rolling, with the pony carts stretched out in a line, following the tide's edges. They are going to gather the cockles left on the shore by the ebb. Theirs is a hard life, at times 10 miles to the cockle beds. They carry their rakes and sieves, carry their boots laced around necks to save the leather, carry their husbands' names, the Davises and the Hughes of Penclouth, round as the rolling of the pony carts. No shirking, even on wintry mornings on the mudflats. They sieve all the small ones out and leave them to grow on, taking only the 3-year-old cockle, with its rings like the rings of a tree. They take care to lift their skirts, squat to a piss, away from the cockles with their little open mouths. Sometimes 1,200 women bundled round, picking the cockles on the beach, and then they ride home on their donkeys, home to the men, rolling wider and rounder, sacks full to the brim, with the cockles that click and clack and mutter as they sway. I was married actually for a few years to somebody who had his own problems, and it was an abusive relationship, and quite a few of the poems in this book are to do with that. This poem is called Borderline. It's a little odd. Borderline. Do you walk on eggshells? Asked the therapist. No, I crunch through them in my Dr. Martin boots, bashing in their little skulls, breaking the beaks that tap and pip, scratching for the light, scrambling blood and sensitive bone. Good, he said. Do you eat the shells of eggs? Asked the terrapin. No, I munch through them, using red claws and truths, spitting out the grit from the blood. But when I get to the heart, although it cannot be broken and is not mine, I am gentle and leave it alone. Good, he said. Will you unscramble my secrets? Asked the terrorist. Love me after the cracks, the big fall, prop up the wall, and protect me from the hooves of the horses, the bayonets of the men. Put me together again and again. No, I said. So I left. Naive city eyes. I picked her up on the way to see my boyfriend, partly for company and partly to show him how unexpected I could be, to intrigue him. She looked harmless, a hippie, Greenpeace bag, naive city eyes. It was raining. She was grateful, even though I could only take her part of the way. Sorry, I have to call in and get my bloke from work, I said. She didn't mind. We got on really well. I could see me in her a bit, 20 years ago, before babies, divorce, guardian soulmates, other shit. The trouble was my boyfriend, a health and safety officer, today working at the abattoir in Ryder, getting into the car, stepping out of the shiny red puddles, smelling strongly of beef, turning to smile at her, blood splashes on his white collar, teeth. It's not very nice. This is not a very pleasant poem, but I'm going to read it anyway, and I apologise to any Catholics who might be watching. It's called The Head of the Church in Rome. Since St. Peter the Rock, the cocks of the cardinals, the penises of the popes have been pickled and preserved, cauterized and kept with ancient unguents and prayers. Peter, rock of ages, it floats, shepherded amongst those pale others. Pope Nicholas, swollen and engorged by the pickling process, has sunk to the bottom, bits of it flaking off and floating as scum on the surface. Pope Leo the Great, tiny. Pope Joan, missing. Julius II, covered in sores. Pontiff, Patriarch, these keys to the kingdom of heaven float. Open their tiny mouths, sip the vinegar sour as sin. This poem I'm going to read because I have both of my sons at home at the moment, and Jim's son Nat is visiting, and it's called Deep Pockets. I sit in the kitchen in a yellow striped dress with deep pockets. Thrusting my hands deep, there is string, a pin, garden wire, and 3 sweet pea seeds. I sit sullen like a child. On the table, a rough grey plate with flecks of blue, and 4 chocolate dainty cakes, and 5 of us in this house. That, I think, is about that kind of expectation of mothers to always put themselves last. But it's my birthday this month, so that's not going to happen. A couple more. This one is called When You're Ready, the Right Man Will Come Along. Taking my cup of tea back to bed this morning, the air was still, but I could just see obliquely the telegraph wire stretched across the street, vibrating and sagging quite alarmingly. What bloody, heavy, sodding bird is that? I wondered, and just as I thought it, he came into view. A man all in green and sparkling, legs all slim and toes pointy, pole shaking, slinking along it, shoulders broad and fine, strong thighs, pinging and stretching like the wire. He caught my eye and grinned. I nodded but didn't want to distract him, so slid beneath the covers. When I came up for air, he had gone. Later, coming back from the co-op, a carrier bag for life, full of regret and relief, I found green sequins scattered in the street. This one is called Still Life. Digby's approach is to sweep things under the carpet. Sometimes he hoovers them up, but then he can't sleep, imagines them still alive in the clear plastic cylinder, the ugly words, the cunts, the bastards, the bitches that lay wriggling around her, that he threw, not imagining the mess. Next time, under the carpet, definitely, yes. Then, if there's still life there, he will not see as he pulls the words from under her feet, as he stamps and stamps and stamps. Cattle lorry lover. You meet me in the lay-by Ludlow on the A49. Is it my heart or the restlessness of the cattle stomping and steaming piss in the back? You kiss my breasts, sucking at the nipples, whilst calves from their mothers are forced to wait for my breathing to calm. Their eyes startle and I climb down, get back into my Volvo estate. They sway away and my breast's milk drips. And finally, on ageing. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the Q&A afterwards. Please feel free to ask me about makeup and hair tips. On ageing. That a path runs through the house is not odd. That it is a gravel path and is uncomfortably narrow makes sense to me, and I follow it, careful not to kick the grey stones onto the floorboards. It takes me down and out into a garden where strings of white lights wrap twisted branches. And here she is, the crone in her feathered nest. White skin and naked, she cowers in the dark, pressed hard against the thickly woven wood. She spits feathers. She recovers herself and passes me a folded fan of coloured cloth, and I take it upstairs to the room filled with light. Unravel its japanned panels, a white lily, lavender, a dandelion, a rose. But it is hers, and though I try to fold it to its neat shape, it will never go back. I see her hover in the doorway. Oh, but I cannot make this neat again. I cannot get it back to how it was before.